Good evening, everyone. Oh, Dr. Liz, Erev Tov, Shavua Tov, Dr. Liz.
Shavua Tov, Rav, Shavua Tov. Wow,
How are
so Rav,
you?
yeah, it's now day 30. Can you believe it? Day 30
Yeah.
of what's been happening. And Rav, something very interesting that's just been breaking news, which I still can't believe what I was hearing. Bernie Sanders, I'm sure you've heard of him, the very liberal, although he was born Jewish, he actually once spent time on a kibbutz, but he supported a lot of very, very left-wing organizations and candidates in the Congress. So he came out today to say that Israel should not agree to a ceasefire, because if they do, Hamas will win. And he says Hamas can't win, because Hamas, their intention is to destroy Israel. And this is unbelievable that it's coming from somebody like Bernie Sanders, because obviously what has happened is that what happened on Simchas Torah, on the Shabbos, either people saw raw evil, they saw mamish, they saw the worst of mankind, and either you are with the MS or you're not with the MS. Either you see the evil and you recognize the evil, or you're not. And unfortunately, there have been many protests in all over all the capitals all over the world, pro-Palestinian. They say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It sounds very it's got a nice sound, rhyming. But what do they mean? That they'll be free of Jews. It will be Judenrein. They want to destroy Israel and destroy any Jewish presence between the river and the sea, that Israel will be obliterated. So unfortunately as well, there have been many so-called, most of them are not Orthodox Jews that have been supporting the ceasefire, the so-called ceasefire. And we even saw in the paper people with yarmulkes, with Free Palestine on the yarmulkes. So there was an incredible article in Jerusalem Post, and I urge you all to try to see it. It was in the Friday edition. But they've now been turned un-Jews. They're not Jewish. They should be relegated to un-Jews. We can't really put them in Cherem because they don't belong. Most of them don't belong to the Orthodox community. But these are people that have no place in Olam Haba. These are people that are detached from Judaism. Because to see this evilness and still to side with the evil ones, it's like that saying, those who are kind to the wicked will one day be wicked to the kind. And Rav, it's an amazing thing. We have people like Boris Johnson, who was the Prime Minister of England. So he went to Be'eri today. He went down to the south, and he's come to visit Israel in this very difficult time. So kol hakavod to him, and kol hakavod to those people that have stood up. And I must be honest, it came as such a shock to hear that Bernie Sanders has actually stood up for Israel. I never would have ever imagined that. But you can see the Yiddish neshama is there. And it was ignited when they saw this. And many, many people in Israel are united because they realize that this fight is not, this is a fight for our existence. And mamish is a fight for our existence. So I just want to wish you all a Shavuot Tov. We hope Bezrat Hashem will have Besorot Tovot. In half an hour, there's actually going to be a Zoom with Doron Peretz. He's going to be speaking with Erica Brown. It's going to be from Yeshiva University. So I'll be doing both, but that's in half an hour. So I got the message from Gail, from Doron's mother. Anyway, Rav, we should only have a Shavuot Tov and all the very best, and let's only have Bezrat Tovot.
Bezrat Hashem, Besorot Tovot. Shkoch, Dr. Liz, thank you for all the good news, and thank you for the update. Good evening, everyone. The subject of tonight, salt on a table, the importance of having salt on a table, and I would like to connect it, Bezrat Hashem, to what we read on a parsha on Shabbat, that we saw that in a parasha, we read about the wife of Lot that did turn to a pillar of salt. And Bezrat Hashem, well, that's going to be the main subject of us tonight. We're going to link the salt that happened in the parsha, that we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he turns Dom v'Amorah, when he brought the plague, the fire, and the sulfur and the salt, What does that have to do with the salt on the table? We bring the pshat, we bring also the sod, the secret behind the having salt on a table when we're having a meal. But first of all, I would like to dedicate the shiur in the soul of Esther Kaden bat Ketzia, Mordechai ben Rahma, Rav Avraham, Chaim ben Eliezer Yaakov, Tamar bat Zeava, Yaakov Salomon ben Parha, Dvora Ruth bat Bela, Shosha Blima bat Mordechai, Betzalel, Malka Regina bat Joya, Keti Gurgia bat Farha. Please God that the shiur will lift up their soul to heaven. Also, I would like to dedicate the shiur in health of Menashe Naji ben Farha, Liora bat Miriam, Arav Moshe ben Bai Abatia, Arav Moshe ben Devora, Arav Shlomo Yehuda ben Dalia, Arav Abraham ben Marina, Dvora bat Esther, Orna Bluma bat Miriam, Sheina Keila bat Hana, Mordechai David ben Leah, Haim Nahum ben Pesa Reza Kohen, Ahuva Kaden bat Tali Esther, Baruch ben Sarah Hiena, Tzvi ben Hava, Nitzan ben Veret, Shmuel Meir ben Shosha Blima, Yehuda Hillel ben Shulamit Lea, Moshe Avram ben Hena Riva, Haya Tzipora bat Rachel, Ayala Eden bat Rivka, Tova Liba bat Rachel, Sarah bat Pnina, Yeshua Haim ben Haya Lea, ולאה bat Rachel. Please God, רפואה שלמה to all of them, ולכל חולי ופצועי עמו בית ישראל. Rabotai, one of the things that we do when we're having a meal, what it means when we're having a meal? I have to explain that Hazal tell us, Seudah, it means that you're having a meal with a bread. Whenever the word meal, Seudah, that means meal, a meal, according to Hazal, it's eating bread. And Hazal constitute for us, and that's how it's been pasken in the Shulchan Aruch, in Siman 167, whoever want to check it up, Sa'if Hey, the Shulchan Aruch pasken that you should have salt on the table when you have a Seudah. Seudah, that when you're having a bread, okay? And we have to understand what's hiding behind it. Why is it so important to have bread on a table? And that's what we're going to deal today. Rabotai, before we start the show, I would just like to give a bit of highlight. In a Parshat Shavua that we read, the Torah tells us that the wife of Lot, by the way, the wife of Lot, her name is Irit. Ain Yud Resh Yud Tav, Irit. Irit been turned to a pillar of salt. And Hazal in the Zohar, many of the Mefarshim explain it was measure for measure. What was measure for measure? And the Zera Shimshon explained that because she didn't want to bring salt, when Lot asked her to bring salt, she didn't want to bring salt. So what happened? The Mefarshim explained that because she didn't want to bring salt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned her to a pillar of salt. And we'll explain now how is it going to connect together. Be'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to speak. But first, we have to learn where's the source, Rabotai, where's the source for putting salt on a table. Hazal explaining like this, in a book of Sefer Vayikra, in chapter 2, verse 13. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and then our friend Jeffrey going to read it to us in English.
Yes.
And Hazal say like this, and the Torah tell us like this, sorry. וכל קורבן מדחנך במלח תמלח, ולא תשבית מלח ברית אלוקיך, מעל מנחתך, על כל קורבנך תקריב מלח.
You shall salt your every meal offering with salt. You may not discontinue the salt of your God's covenant from upon your meal offering. On your every offering shall you offer salt.
Okay, that's what the Torah tells us. Hazal learned from here that in time that Bet HaMikdash was exist, that they used to bring salt and they used to put on top of the korban, on top of the sacrifice. That when they used to bring a korban to the altar, on top of that, they used to put salt. Today, that we don't have Bet HaMikdash. Bet HaMikdash not exist today, and that we all know. So Chazal tell us that Shulhano Shel Adam, the table of a person, that's considered an altar. What it means, the table? A person, Chazal explained, a place that a person eat his main meal, or all of his meal that he eat with bread, that's considered a table, and that's he make it as an altar. That's considered as an altar. That's how Chazal explain the Torah Shebichtav. Come Chazal in Torah Shebe'al Peh in Masechet Brachot. Chazal in Masechet Brachot tell us something very interesting. Chazal in Masechet Brachot, page 40, folio 1. Chazal say like this, I'm going to read it, and then I will translate it. Amar Rava bar Shmuel. Say Rabbah, the son of Shmuel. Okay? Mishum Rabbi Hiya, in the name of Rabbi Hiya. En habotzeya, a person that said the mochi, that when the person that tear the bread, when he said the mochi, okay, Rashai levarech, is not allowed to say the brocha, ad sheyaviu melach o liftan lefanav. That means a person not allowed, okay, to say the brocha motzi lechem min haaretz until there is in the front of him salt or liftan. Liftan in the olden days, or what we call it today, is like salad that you can dip the bread in. For example, like hummus or tahina, or what they have today, matbucha, and all different kind of salad that you can dip it and you can eat the bread with that. So we're learning from Torah Shebe'al Peh in Gemara Masechet Brachot, page 40, okay, folio 1, that what we have to make sure that when you want to say brocha, motzi lechem min haaretz, you should have salt on the table, or any kind of salad. That's called liftan, that means hummus or tahina, whatever the case is, it doesn't make a difference, that you can dip it. The Shulchan Aruch is Rabbi Yosef Karo. Rabbi Yosef Karo, born in a city of Toledo in Spain, 535 years ago. In Siman Kuf Samech Zayin, that means Siman is chapter, let's call it 167. Okay? Sa'if Hey, verse number 5, and he bring the halacha and he base it on what the Rambam say. Because we know that the Shulchan Aruch used to pashken all of his halachot, he based it according to the Rambam and the Rif. Rambam is Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon and the Rif. Okay? And according to them, he said that the Rambam in Hilchot Tziat Apat in chapter 7, law number 3, and by the way, most of the poskim like that we should have salt on a table, okay, when we eating. When we eating bread, should be salt on a table. We bring also another idea what else should be later on. So far we understand what the Torah tell us that should be salt on a table. Until here we understand. We brought the source from Torah Shebichtav, that Sefer Vayikra, in Parashat Vayikra, chapter 2, verse 13. Then we brought the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 40, folio 1, that Hazal tell us there that should be salt before you say Motzi lechem min haaretz, and before Botzeat Tapat. Botzeat Tapat, that you tearing the pot or you slicing the bread. And we brought now, until now, the Shulchan Aruch paskin like this. So until now, we understand that should be salt on a table. But really, why is it so important that should be salt on a table? What difference does it make if there is salt on the table or not? So I'm going to start with a pshat of the dvarim, and later on, I would like to move a bit more depth for us and to understand why it's good to have salt on a table. So the Rama, it's Rabbi Moshe Isserlich. Rabbi Moshe Isserlich, he born in the city of Krakow in Poland. He was the chief rabbi of Krakow, and he wrote commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. And listen what he said. In the Agaha, in a commentary on the Bet Yosef, he bring in the name of Shibulei Aleket, it's one of the poskim. He explained the same like the altar that we used to bring sacrifice to him. People used to do atonement. It used to do atonement to the people. Okay, it used to do atonement to people that used to bring sacrifice. Okay, what does it mean? It's mean that by that you bring the sacrifice, doing atonement for all your sin. Now that we don't have Bet HaMikdash, the table that we're eating on, it's considered as a mizbeach. Rabotai, listen to that. The table that we're eating bread on, consider in a mizbeach. Therefore, the same like we used to put salt on the sacrifice on a mizbeach when we used to bring the sacrifices, said the Rama, because now that your table is become the mizbeach, become the altar, you have to eat your food bigdusha uvtara. What it means bigdusha uvtara? That the food, number one, should be kosher and should be holy, and the way that you eat should be in a holy way, in a holy manner. Therefore, listen, if you do that, your table becomes a korban and as an altar, as a mizbeach. And the food that you eat, say, the Rama, that's the korban, that's the altar. And that's why we should have salt on a table. That's the Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserlich. I saw another commentary that brought by the Ra'ah, Rabbi Aharon HaLevi. Rabbi Aharon HaLevi, born in the city of Gorondia. Gorondia is in Spain. He born 789 years ago. And he explained it differently. He explained that, by the way, he was just before the Rishonim, during the time of the, just after the Rishonim. And he explained that in daytime, that what Hazal telling us in the Gemara, what explained, that the bread wasn't so fine, wasn't so good. Why? Because they used to make the bread, but it didn't have salt. It didn't have all different things that they put today in the bread. And the bread wasn't so fine, wasn't as good and as tasty as the bread today. So he says something very important. He said that they used to put salt on a table, that because the bread wasn't as nice, wasn't as tasty, that people can dip their bread inside the salt. That's the second opinion. The halachot gdolot is Rabbi Shimon Kira. Rabbi Shimon Kira, born in Babylon. He was from the Rishonim. He born around 1,183 years ago. And in his book that's called Halachot Gdolot, Big Law, he explained that the main reason that we put salt on the table, that the person after he vas must not stop, okay, and ask for salt. So the salt must be on the table, and that's not going to cause hefsek. That means after you've done netilat yadayim, you come to the table, and immediately you say, "Hamotzi lechem min haaretz." He said, but if there is no salt on the table, and you suddenly ask for salt, that can cause hefsek, and that can cause a problem. Therefore, Hazal constitutes for us, listen, instead of that, you must have ready on the table salt. And only then, once that you have it, you vas and then you say Amotzi lechem min haaretz, and then you dip it. That's according to Rabbi Shimon Kira. All of that according to the Pshat. Louis, you wanted to ask something? Bechavod, Louis, I see that you put your hand. Louis? Yes? Louis? Can you hear me, Louis? No, Louis can't hear me. I see that he put his hand. Don't know what's happened. Okay. I don't know what's happened with Louis, but he disappeared. Okay. Let's continue because I see that Louis wanted to ask a question. I'm not sure what happened, but Louis wanted to ask a question. Okay. So we understand the four idea according to the Pshat, why we have to have salt on a table. I'm just going to repeat them quickly. Why is it so important? So we explained that the Rama explained that that's exactly like the altar, the table that we're eating. It's equivalent to the altar, our shulchan, our table, and the bread that we're eating is exactly like the korban. According to the Rabbi Levy said that the bread in their time wasn't as good, wasn't as fine as the bread in our day. According to Rabbi Shimon Kira, that was from the Rishonim, he explained that it shouldn't be hefsek between the time that you done the netilat yadayim and you say asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav tzivanu al netilat hayadayim, you should not have a hefsek to ask for salt. Therefore, you have salt on the table, so immediately you can say Amotzi lechem min haaretz, and then you can dip the bread in a salt. That's the two opinion according to the pshat of the dvarim. But let's understand what's hiding behind. We know behind every mitzvah, beside the pshat of the dvarim, there's a mystical thing that Hazal explained that's happening. What's happening? Hazal explained that there is also the secret of the Torah, why we've been told to put salt on the table. So I saw a beautiful commentary that brought in a book, Or Tzadikim. Or Tzadikim is a book that's been written by Rabbi Meir Pepirash. Rabbi Meir Pepirash, born around 399 years ago in Prague, in the city of Prague, in the Czech Republic. In his book, Derech HaSeudah, that means the way of eating. Also, I saw that it's brought by Rabbi Alexander Ziskin. Rabbi Alexander Ziskin, in his book, Yesod V'Shoresh HaAvodah, Rabbi Alexander Ziskin, born in Belarus. He born, if I'm not mistaken, 285 years ago. In his book, Yesod V'Shoresh HaAvodah, there he brings in Sha'ar HaBrachot. He says something very interesting. Both of them say the main reason that we're putting salt on a table to soften the judgment. What does it mean to soften the judgment? We have to understand. Judgment is midat adin. Midat adin, as I'll explain, that when people lo alenu do averot, then there is midat adin. The evil inclination come and start to criticize and to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they deserve a punishment. And if they deserve a punishment, he wants the punishment. And then, lo alenu, there is midat adin. Then there is judgment, the character trait of judgment coming to the world. And that, has v'shalom, cause a lot of havoc. I don't want to continue. So they say that the salt, actually there is a remedy on it, that it will get rid of judgment that there is against the person on the table. That means that the salt on the table doing atonement the same like it used to be in the time of Bet HaMikdash, that the Korban died. Come the Gaon Hida. The Gaon Hida bring in a deeper more reason. And he said that this, the Gaon Hida is Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai. He born in Jerusalem 299 years ago. And in his book, Tziporen Shamir, he wrote a book, Tziporen Shamir. By the way, I always explain that the Gaon Hida wrote many books, but all of them on the organ of the body. Now, in this book that it's called Tziporen Shamir, Tziporen is a nail, okay? The nail of the Shamir. In Siman Dalet, verse 4, if you want to look at it, in, chapter 4, verse 64. He said, "Hamelach al hashulchan mesalek et hasitra achra." What does it mean? That when you put salt on a table, he gets rid of all the evil forces. That means that evil forces cannot come to your place. Now we're going to go and start understanding deeper what's happening with that. We know that when we take the bread, we usually dip it 3 times on a salt. Why is that? And that can help us to understand what the Or Tzadikim say and Yesod v'Shoresh HaAvodah, and what Tziporen Shamir, what the Gaon Hida explained. The Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim. Rabbi Yosef Chaim, born in Iraq, in the city of Baghdad, 189 years ago. He wrote the famous book, Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai is a book of halachot. It's been split to 2 volumes, first year and second year. That's how we call him. And he actually, on the first year, it's every year, every week, he wrote according to the Parsha the halachot. So in the first year in Parashat Emor, he explained that the bread is the character trait of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that called Hesed. He said, let me explain to you. Take the word bread. In Hebrew, lechem is gematria 78. The character trait of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Hesed, what is it? Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shem Havaya. What is the gematria of Shem Havaya? 26. Yud is 10, K is 5, 15. Then Yud K, then come Vav, 6. How much is it together? No. Yud K and Vav, 31. It's already looking about 21. Then we have another 5 of K, 26. He said, when you take the bread and you dip it 3 times in the salt, 26 times 3, 78.
78.
What's the sod here? What is the secret? He said, by that you dipping the bread 3 times in the salt, you bringing the character trait of Hesed, that's kindness to the world, and you bringing it to your table. And you get rid of the Midat Adin, the character trait of judgment. And by that you soften the judgment that there is, lo alenu, on a person. So from here we see how important is it that we dipping the bread 3 times. Also, when a person holds the bread, the 2 bread on Shabbat, we have 10 fingers. Hazal say that when you hold it, you have to hold it with 10 hands, both of the bread. Why dafka? That the 5 finger here, sorry, not 10 hand, 5 finger, 10 finger. 5 finger on one side and another 5 finger on the other side, and the bread in the middle. Why? Because the secret that's towards the brocha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu Haolam, Hamotzi Lechem Haaretz. There is 10 words. Okay? By that we're putting the 10 together and we're dipping it later on 3 times, we soften all the judgment that there is on us. Very, very important. The Zohar HaKadosh in Parashat Vayechi in page 241, the Zohar HaKadosh saying that the job of the salt is to get rid of the bitterness that there is in the world. For example, in the time of Bet HaMikdash, they used to take the korban And they used to salt it, okay? To take all the blood out. We know that no blood, but we're not allowed to eat blood. But if you take something and you don't add up the salt, imagine eating meat without salt. It's going to be very bitter. Come the Zohar Kadosh and tell us it's not just the bitterness on the food, by that you're putting salt on a korban, and by that you're bringing bread to your table, because that's now your altar, and you're dipping your bread, that's the korban, that's the sacrifice, in a salt. You actually canceling all the bitterness in a world. What it means, bitterness? According to the Pshat of the Dvarim, we explain that meat without salt is bitter. The Zohar HaKadosh say that mean that the bitterness, it's all of those negative forces that try to bring on us, has v'shalom, all different truths. That means that the purpose of the what do you call it, of the salt, is to remove any calamity from the world, any disaster. That's also the Ramah bringing it. The Ramah in Agaot bring it. So we learn from here that the job of the salt on a table, Rabotai, it's only to our benefit. That to create more harmony and peace at home, okay? And I heard today that some people say that it's to remove the evil eye, that the salt, one of the main idea that we have salt on the table, that should not be evil eye. Okay, let's continue and let's hear what else they say. So remember, I told you that there is another thing that we should put on the table at the beginning of the show. So I saw it at the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai, in Parashat Emor, he bring there that we should have salt on the table, we say. But he bring a name of Rabbeinu Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi. Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, born in Jerusalem 489 years ago. And he said that, Mahon, that you should have salt on the table, but it's also good to have hyssop. Hyssop, in Hebrew, it's called za'atar. Za'atar. Za'atar is a bush. It's a little bush that grows. And that za'atar, Rabotai, mesalek et hamezikim. When there is za'atar on the table, the mezikim. A mezikim, you all understand what is a mezikim. It's those that cause a lot of pain and harmful to us. If they're walking onto, or those that doesn't walk onto. All of those that cause problem in the world, when they, listen to that, when they see that there is hyssop on the table, they just disappear. They can't be there. The power of the salt and the power of the hyssop get rid of all those evil forces, what we call a demon and etc. Another thing that I saw that brought that why to put the salt on a table, Rabotai, is Chazal explained that we say that the table of a human being is instead of the altar. And the bread that he's eating, it's equivalent to the korban that he used to bring. He said, by that you put on a table salt, it's to remind you that the altar, you can't bring sacrifice. That means that because we cannot have altar, Bet HaMikdash is destroyed, to remind us the destruction of the temple. That's why we have salt on the table. I saw another beautiful commentary that brought by Rabbi David ben Moshe Sikli. He born in a city of called Dovdo. Dovdo, it's a city in Morocco. He born, if I'm not mistaken, around 171 years ago, plus minus. Don't hold me into it. And he says, you know what's happened when you dip the bread 3 times on a salt? We say it's a word Shem Havaya, that it has kindness, that instead of judgment, you bring in kindness to your table and to the world. He said, by that you're doing it 3 times, you should have to have in mind, listen to that. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch Le'olam Va'ed. Each time that you dip, Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch Le'olam Va'ed, you don't have to say it, just have it in mind. That's helping to soften the judgment. How's that? Because now you're actually saying, Hashem is the king. Hashem Melech, Hashem is the king. Hashem Malach, Hashem was the king even before. Hashem Imloch, and the Almighty will be the king, Le'olam Va'ed. That means by that you're dipping the bread 3 times and you say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch Le'olam Va'ed, and you're having in mind that the Almighty is the king, the Almighty was the king, and the Almighty will be the king forever, you actually soften it and soften the judgment in the world. And Rabotai, how much we did it now in a time of this war. So when you do again Amot Shilachem Min Haaretz and you dip the bread, please have it on mind. The Zohar HaKadosh in Parashat Truma. Now he bringing a different idea, and with that I'm going to link it now, Rabotai, to what we read on the Parsha, and then I'm going to develop. The Zohar in Parashat Truma explain, you know why we're putting salt on the table? It's to remind us the city of Sdom. What was the city of Sdom? The city of Sdom was a very fertilized piece of land, like we explained on Shabbat, and we explained it also on Thursday night. Chazal say something very interesting about Sdom. Sorry. Chazal explained that the member of Sdom, because that piece of land was so fertilized, they used to ply the land and plant once every 40 years. That's all. Every 40 years, they used to plant vegetables, they used to plant fruit and wheat and etc. And they didn't need to. For 40 years, they didn't need to. But because they have an evil eye, okay, and they didn't want to share it with poor people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned the city of Sdom V'Amorah to a place of sulfur lo alenu and fire and salt. And they didn't have nothing. And Chazal say, to remind us what happened in Sdom, put salt on the table. Why? To remind you that you have to make sure to look after poor people. That you have to make sure that you help those that need, poor people. That's why we put a table, because in Sdom they didn't help the poor people. It's come to help us that if we don't want Chas v'Shalom lo yakum v'lo yeh, that things will turn bad. I don't want to mention. We put salt on the table to remind us to help the poor people. Come to Zera Shimshon, Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani. Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani say on the Parsha, you know why Sdom V'Amorah turned to salt? Because Irit, the wife of Lot, when the angel came, she make a beautiful table. Rabotai, she bake, she make a beautiful table. Okay, she opened for them a table. But when Lot said to her, go bring salt to the table, she got very upset. Why? Because, said the Zera Shimshon, she said to Lot, why are you opening your mouth, okay, to bad deeds? This fertilized land will never happen that it will turn, okay, to whatever happened in Sodom V'Amorah. It can never happen. So he said, therefore, we don't need salt on a table. Say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to punish you midah keneged midah, measure for measure. You didn't want to bring salt to the table. Why? Because you said that it's all suspicious, it's all nonsense. Midah keneged midah. I'll bring the demon, I'll bring the mezikim to where? To Sdom v'Amorah. That's lo alenu what's happened. So said the Mefarshim like this. Listen what the Mefarshim said as well. He said to remind us Sdom was a very fertilized land. They didn't want to look after the poor people. Because they didn't want to look after the poor people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took all the prosperity from them. It's to remind us when we have a meal to make sure that we're looking after the poor people. That's why we put salt on the table, Zohar, Parashat Truma. And the Zera Shimshon, Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani, that born in the city of Modena in the north of Italy 318 years ago. Rabotai, now I would like to move to another stage. You know, on Shabbos, we always say before we bench, we say the poem of Tehillim, שיר המעלות, בשוב אדוני את שיבת ציון היינו כחולמים. שיר המעלות, בשוב אדוני. That's poem of Tehillim 126. Why we saying it, I will explain now, but Hazal say that during the week, it's also good to say poem of Tehillim 137. During the week, when we're sitting and eating, okay, after we finish the meal, just before we bench, 137. Why dafka these two poems of Tehillim? What's so special about them? So on a pshat of the Dvarim, the Mefarshim explain because those two poems of Tehillim speaking about the destruction of the temple. And now that we don't have a temple, that we need to eat to keep us healthy, to keep us strong, that we can worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we can go to work, and etc. Said by that you're seeing those two Tehillim on Shabbos and during the week, two different ones that speak about the destruction of the temple, to remind us that although that we may be at prosperity, but our Bet HaMikdash not exists. That's what we're saying, those two Mizmorei Tehillim. I would like to conclude the She'ur and to explain now what we learned this evening. So, in conclusion, if we look, that lehalacha, halacha, okay, there's no halachically source, okay, that said that you should have what you call it, salt on the table. Why? And the main reason is, like we explained, that in our time, like the Ra'ah explained, Rabbi Aaron Alevi, he said like this. He said the bread that we're eating, first of all, is very fine, okay? The kemach is a flour, it's very fine, it's very good bread, is really fine bread, it's really tasty. Well, in the olden days, they didn't have, okay? But because we want to have bread on the table, and the main reason for it is that today the bread is fine, although we still keep the bread, is according to the mystical rabbi that brought a number of them, that it's to make sure that the evil force is not there. The mezikim is, you know what I'm talking about, is the ayin hara not there. All of those evil forces and the negative, let's call it the negative energy, should not be on our table. That's what we learned so far. I saw a beautiful commentary that brought that I saw commentary of the Ultra Rebbe. The Ultra Rebbe, it's Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladia. He born 278 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, in Belarus. He born in Belarus. And in his Shulchan Aruch, it's called Shulchan Aruch Harav, okay? There he explained, according to the mystical, what we explain, that there is different secret on a soul, like we explained, but that he explained that the strength of the bread, the strength of the salt on a table is not only just to get rid of the nezikim, it's tell you of the sitra achra. What does it mean, sitra achra? Everyone heard the word sitra achra. It's in Aramaic. Sitra is the other side. Sitra achra, the other side. That means there is the side of the positive and there is the side of the negative. All the negativity that there is in the world, that means all the evilness that there is in the world, that's considered, that's coming from the sitra achra, the other side. Sitra achra is the other side. That's the translation from Aramaic to Hebrew. The Kabbalistic rabbi used that term a lot. Why? Because instead of saying demon, instead of saying mezikim, all those, they put it underneath one word, the sitra achra, the other side. All the negative energy that there is in the world, for destruction, for punishment, for whatever you want to call it, that they call it sitra achra. So come the Ultra Rebbe, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladi, he was the Chabad Rebbe, okay? He started the movement of Chabad, sorry. He started the movement of Chabad, and he said that the job of the salt, and he bringing, actually quoting the Gaon Chida, that it's to get rid of all the other side of the positive, to get rid of it, the sitra achra, the other side. That means that instead of having has v'shalom negativity on a table, when you put salt, it's avoiding all of that. So what we explained earlier, that Ari HaKadosh saying that you should put hesed. What is the job of the hesed? And Rabotai, sometimes we have a meal and we're inviting people, and people are people. By putting hesed on a table, even if people jealous of us, even if people have bad eyes on us, the salt and the hesed have the power to push them away. And that's the secret on a salt on a table. So next time when we're sitting on a Shabbos table, or we're sitting to have a normal meal with bread, remember that the salt on a table, the power of that salt on a table, especially, and that's the most important of our time, that we tear the bread after we cut the bread, or even before that, when we take the challah or the bread and we put it on the salt 3 times, we're dipping it in the salt 3 times. Why is it? What do? There's many people that usually put the salt on top of the bread. That's also right. But you should put salt on a cutting board, take the challah and dip it 3 times, and that will help you, okay, to bring the hesed to the world, like we explained, because the word lechem, gematria 78, hesed, it's the name of the Almighty Yud Kei Vav Kei that represent hesed. By that you're dipping it 3 times, okay, it's gematria of lechem. Together you're bringing mercy and kindness to the world. By that you're saying also in mind, like we brought, Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch L'olam Vayed. Those 3 things, if we do them properly, we can change our meal, number 1, to be holy. Number 1, we get rid of all the mezikim, all of those that came from the evil forces, the negative forces, the negative energy, whatever term you want to give it to, we get rid of them. from the table that we sit in. And quite often, sometimes people sit on a table, and you all know that sometimes a person say a word, and by mistake, the other one say another word, and the argument started. The strength of the salt, the strength of the heshop is to get rid of all of that evilness. That there is no mahloket, that there is no fighting on the table, there is no ayn hara, there is no mezikim, there is no bad energy. That's the secret of the table, the salt on a table. But I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that it's given you a different way to understand why do we put salt on a table. Why is it so important that when we're having a meal on Shabbos, when I say a meal, Rabotai, again, a meal, according to Hazal, it's called Seudah. Seudah, what does it mean, Seudah? Seudah lechem, a bread. We know that we have Seudat mitzvah. Why they call it Seudat mitzvah? Seudat mitzvah you do only on a lechem, on a bread. So say the Hazal that Seudah, it's only on a bread. The next time that we're sitting around the Shabbos table and we have salt on a table, okay, you make sure that you're thinking and remember 3 times that you take the bread, you can take all the challah. You don't have to slice it and then dip it 3 times. No, take it all and hold it, the challah, and dip it 3 times. And in your mind say, Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch le'olam va'ed. Hashem Melech, the Almighty is the King. Hashem Malach, the Almighty was the King. Hashem Imloch le'olam va'ed, the Almighty will be the King forever. By that you're saying it, you're giving a testimony that the Almighty is the King. He was, He will, and He's now the King in the present. That's changing all the bad energy, okay? And you get rid of all the negativity, has b'shalom, that there is on the table. And then there's no ayn hara, there's no argument, and people enjoy the meal. And that's what you should have to have in mind. And obviously, remember that when you hold the bread, like the Ben Ish Chai said, that you hold it with 10 hands. Towards the 10 words that there is in Amotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, in a brocha. Okay, all of those together help us that when we're eating our meal, when I say the meal, the bread, to eat it in betehara ugdusha. Tehara is purity, and gdusha is holiness. And that's the secret behind the salt on a table. I hope, Rabotai, that you enjoy the show. If there is any question regarding the show, please unmute the microphone and you can ask the question regarding on the meal on a table. Bechavot, those of you that want to ask questions.
Rabbi, it's Frank. How are you?
Erev Tov, Frank. Shavua Tov. How are you?
All right. Look, I was speaking to my son in Israel for a few minutes. I may have missed it, but I read somewhere that when the upper waters and the lower waters were separated, okay, the lower waters complained that they were separated, they wanted to be near Hashem and the upper level. So Hashem said to him, don't worry, you'll be at every table. Am I right or not?
What is it? That's happened on a Monday. That's why we call Monday the Yom Mahloket, the day Mahloket, Monday.
Okay.
Look, on Monday, it doesn't say Kitov, doesn't say Tov.
Yeah.
Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu separate between the 2 water.
Right.
What does it mean? The lower water wanted to be closer to Hashem. Everyone wanted to be closer to Hashem. Because before the creation, everything was Tov Vavo. We don't know what is it. Hevok, we call it. But the lower water, that's the salt, that inside the lower water, that's the sea.
Yes.
That's what they're referring to. The salt that inside the sea HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I will bring you on top of the table. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, 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 yes.
So that's why that's how HaKadosh, not why, that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu comfort the lower water
The
from the
lower
upper water.
water.
Why?
Okay.
Because it was one big water, okay?
Right.
I don't know if
Yes.
you can imagine it. HaKadosh
Yeah.
Baruch Hu split. Those one can go up, those one can go
Yeah.
down. It's a different concept that we cannot put it together, but let's try
Right.
to understand that. So the lower water, say, why you make me a lower water? Do you understand? I want to be
Yes,
closer
yes.
to you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, don't worry, I'm going to make you closer to me. How am I going to make you closer to me? By that from the lower water will be salt. And that salt, where do you take the salt? From the sea, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. Yes,
That
that's right.
salt, where is it going to go? To the table.
On the table.
What is the table considered? As an altar, we say.
That's right. Yes.
Do you understand? And
Yes,
the bread
yes.
that we're eating, it's the korban, it's the sacrifice.
Right.
That's how it's become closer to Hashem.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Rabbi. Thank you. Yeah.
Pleasure. Any other question, Rabotai? Bechavod. Louis,
Yes,
I saw
Ross.
that you, Bechavod, Jeffrey. Louis, I saw that you wanted to ask something.
Yes.
You put
Is
your hand.
someone else want to ask first?
No. Louis gonna unmute just now. Yes, Bechavod,
Right.
Jeffrey. No.
Okay.
Bechavod.
So, there's just a couple of points. You mentioned with Lot's wife. Lot asked wife to bring the salt, and she says a lot of nonsense about this, getting rid of all the demons and the shit's nonsense. But at the same time, remember she had 3 guests there, and they're not wanted. So if she goes next door and asks for salt, I mean, people are going to know there is something going on, and she's got guests. And this was a terrible thing in Sodom at the time.
She told them, because she gone and told them, listen, we need salt. So they ask her, why you have salt? Because we have visitors. She done it on purpose.
Okay.
You understand?
I thought it was the other way around. Okay.
And in Sodom, one of the law in the constitution was not to bring visitors if they're not family. Do you understand?
Yes.
And what is Lot done? Lot, not only that he became the judge that day, they appoint him as a judge, Lot now also brought visitors against the constitution.
Yeah.
I spoke about it in Shiva College on Shabbat. A bit more, I explained it in the depths on a show.
And he was an immigrant himself, Lot. So it was made even worse. Another point. We mentioned on Shabbos, we did the 3 times, because we're all around the table. What about during the week? Does it apply as well?
What about?
During the week, when we have bread with a meal.
Yes,
do we do the same thing?
I explained that during the week, if you eat bread, definitely eat all the time. I tell you what I'll do. On my table, I have all the time bread that I eat. All the time I'll eat bread and hyssop, okay, that I bought from Israel.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's all the time.
Okay. Now, or let's say you go and have a bread sandwich.
Yeah,
is it the same sandwich thing? Is that a
for sure? What difference
meal?
does it make? A bread is a bread. It doesn't make a difference.
So any
as long
bread
as you make on it sauda, and I'll tell you why. Jeffrey. If you eat a slice of bread, there is a 30 gram or 27 gram kazait. So you already have to do netilat yadayim, okay? והמוציא לחם מן הארץ וברכת המזון, נכון?
Yeah.
You inevitably, a person eat at least 2 slices of bread, you know? Yeah. So there is kabetza. So if you have it, you just dip it a little bit. 1, 2, 3. That's all. And in mind, say, Hashem melech, Hashem malach, Hashem loch le'olam va'ed. That's all.
So if we go and have a pizza,
You don't have to say it. Just having a Shem Melech, Shem Malach, Shem Melech,
And we go and have a pizza?
the
It's got
same
flour?
depends. No, whoa. A pizza is different. There is a pizza that it's mezonot, because if the dough been mixed with milk, it's mezonot.
Right.
You follow?
Yeah.
Now, but it's still a bread, נכון?
Yes.
So you don't say המוציא לחם מן הארץ, but put salt on the table.
Okay. So, no, that's something I didn't know at all. Thank you.
Thank you. You understand the concept?
100%. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because after all, a pizza is the meal. It's to satisfy you. You eat it.
Yes, it's a meal.
I can't, but there's people that can finish a full pizza by themselves. A full,
It's not
one
easy.
ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was young, I can. I don't think today I can finish a full ring. But what I'm saying, it does satisfy. Pizza does satisfy. So
Yes.
it's a
Want to
good
give me
meal,
a sleeping tablet?
Right. Okay.
One last thing.
Bravo.
We said when we should think of that. You gave us an example with Saddam. They didn't share with the poor. They didn't do anything.
נכון.
Should we every time we have bread automatically have a few coins to give to tzedakah before we have the bread?
There is some people that doing it. But that is humra. It doesn't say it. It's more the mekubalim say that to put the pushka on the table, to put few, and that you're gonna give to the poor people. That's really hasidut. But beseder, if you want to do it, why not? It's most important is that on Shabbos, when you invite people that cannot have a meal. The same that have a problem with having meal, or people, for example, in Sukkot, when you invite people for your sukkah. Why do you invite people for the sukkah? That the ushpezin saw that you invited people to the sukkah. It's not necessary that they have to be, Hazal said that they should be poor, but there is another interpretation that say that these people that living on a block of flats, okay, and they cannot build a sukkah.
Right.
Why? Because they have a balcony, but above them there is a balcony, and there is a concrete slab above them. They can't have a sukkah. When you invite them to your house, it's considered like ani. What is ani? Is a poor person, but it's not ani with money. It's ani that couldn't have a sukkah.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay.
So it's on the same system. So it's come to tell you that when you invite people to your Shabbos meal, you should invite those that can't afford to have a meal. It's also good for Havashik. You know what I'm saying? To have people together, and the salt helping all of this. Shemekarev et halevavot. You're bringing the heart together.
All right. Get rid of the sitra achra.
That's it. Because the job of the sitra achra is just to bring lo alenu velo al af echad me'am Yisrael, to bring sadness, not exactly the opposite of happiness.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
The pleasure. Any other question, Rabotai, regarding the salt on the table, the importance of having salt on the table? No. Okay. So, Rabotai, I would like to wish all of you, we exactly at 9 o'clock, actually 4 minutes or 5 minutes past 9. We're not so late. I'm trying to stick to an hour of the show. I would like to wish all of you Shavua Tov U'Mvorach. Please God, that next time that you're having your meal with your bread, you remember the salt on the table, and to have in mind that Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch Le'olam Va'ed, we bring in the character trait of kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu here to earth, and that kindness, Be'ezrat Hashem, will guard our soldier, will guard the Jewish people all over the world, the Jewish people in the land of Eretz Israel, the Jews all over the world, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy and compassion on us and will guard us and send us, Be'ezrat Hashem, speedily in our day. Mashiach Titkenu. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I hope that you enjoyed the shiur and wish you all Shavua Tov Umvorach ahead. All the best, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Good night.